President Biden is in trouble politically. He's polling right up there with fungal infections. Part of the reason for that is that he gave in to the loon wing of his party, and he dissolved the southern border.
Yeah, that is a potential problem. Not really with his party. And when you say the loon wing of the Democrat Party, I think that is the Democrat Party at this point. If you're a proud member of the Democrat Party, you are a member of the loon wing of the Democrat Party. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Welcome back to hour number 3. I gotta tell you, so many crazy things. We've got Merrick Garland, amazingly, the Attorney General of the United States of America, testifying on Capitol Hill today. And he's got an all-new explanation why they're not going to hand over the Joe Biden audio recordings of his interview with Robert Hur, where he sounds like a doddering fool. Yesterday they had one explanation. Today they have a different explanation. We also have Hunter Biden. The jury has been impaneled in Wilmington, Delaware. It's a Democrat-friendly jury, no doubt, and I have some of the details on the jury coming up for you. And before we get to all of that, because there's always too much to get to, for a simple 3-hour radio broadcast, they give me too much every single day. But yesterday they gave one set of excuses for not releasing the audio tape of Joe Biden being interviewed where he is obviously a fool they don't want to release. But it turns out, we learned yesterday also, that they edited the transcript, the paper transcript that they released, and they cut things out, which they do it with White House transcripts with Joe Biden all the time. We are the Soviet Union, honestly. I'm reminded of the Soviet authoress, Elena Gorokova, who wrote a book about the Soviet Union called A Mountain of Crumbs, where she said, the rules are simple. They lied to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying to us. And that's where we are in the United States of America now. And the people on the left, that is the Democrats, they seem to be comfortable with that. I am not comfortable with that. Now, so many things to say, so many things to do. But right now, I want to go to a phone call because on the line, we have Isaac calling from Alexandria, Virginia, former intelligence officer. And Isaac, welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. You bet. Now, I understand you called in and you spoke to Jasmine, the wonderful Jasmine, and you have an opinion. You have something to say. You have some information on that 51. I call it the felonious 51, that letter that was signed by so many senior intelligence officials, including John Brennan, the CIA director under Barack Obama, who voted for the Communist Party candidate for President of the United States, Gus Hall. And then Barack Obama, whose mentor as a teen was a member of the Communist Party, Frank Marshall Davis. Barack Obama made John Brennan, the communist voter, the CIA director. He was one of the corruptniks, in my opinion, leading the charge, signing that letter, 51 alleged intelligence officials, saying that the Hunter Biden laptop had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. And now, Isaac, of course, it is perhaps the centerpiece of the trial in Wilmington, Delaware, having to do with Hunter Biden. It was always obviously Hunter Biden's laptop. These 51 intelligence officials, I have been describing it, Isaac, as an information operation that they ran against the American people. And I think that is a criminal action, a criminal activity perpetrated by these 51 intelligence officials. And they tampered in, meddled in our presidential election, as the CIA has done in foreign elections again and again. But I believe they did that to us in the United States of America.
Oh, you're right, Chris. And one of the things I wanted to get back to you on is, I think, originally when the letter came out, they said there were 60 officials, and there were 60, but 9 of them were anonymous. They signed it anonymously. So I know the number 51 has been circling around a lot lately, and I think you might have even mentioned that originally there were 60 people who signed it. the thing about that is impressive is that most of them, in fact, almost 40 of them, were not that senior an official. When Morrell drafted the thing up, what he did, I think, is circled the thing among the CIA people, and there were like mostly mid to senior level functionaries in CIA that signed that thing. Mm-hmm. Almost 40 of them. And if you apply the same percentage to the number 60, you get like maybe 45, 50 of them were not all that senior a guy. So it was a CIA letter, a CIA-driven event, as far as I'm concerned. And I was a mid-level guy. I mean, I've been out a little while and retired and all that. But I sat in meetings with Ames Aldridge, Robert Hansen, some of those big, some of our biggest compromises in the history of the community. And these guys remind me, they have the characteristics. I mean, this Chris Barbie Fetish Ray is a real, and Emeritus Garland, those guys show extremely comparable characteristics of those guys.
You're talking about Aldridge James and Robert Hansen, who betrayed our country. They were traitors. They were effectively foreign agents inside our machinery. And look, I've pointed out again and again, Isaac, that one of the signatories was a guy named Jeremy Bash. Now, Jeremy Bash is the ex-husband of CNN's Dana Bash, and he is nothing more than a political functionary in the Obama campaign who was given one of these jobs as chief of staff to the CIA director, but he was never an intelligence officer, right? Right.
Their experience level in anything intelligence information oriented is very, very limited, if any. I mean, it would all be, media level stuff.
Well, I have, Isaac, I've long described this. I spent 10 years, my office was at the Pentagon for 10 years, covering the military and the intelligence community, and a great many honorable people that I encountered and worked with over the years. But I got to tell you, our institutions have been so corrupted, and this guy, Jeremy Bash, who I met long ago a couple of times, and I wouldn't say he was a bad guy or anything, but he is just a political functionary in the Democrat machinery, and chief of staff at the CIA isn't an intelligence job, it's a political job, and that was certainly the case with Jeremy Bash. But in any event, your take on this letter is signed by 51, because I honestly think that these people committed felonies, and you may not be an attorney yourself, but I believe they committed felonies, that they tampered very deliberately the timing of this letter by the 51 intelligence alleged officers. It was designed to corrupt our presidential election, and I believe successfully so, pretending that the Hunter Biden laptop with all of this damning and incriminating evidence about Joe Biden and the Biden family's ongoing criminal enterprises. And polls showed after the election that if people had known that the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop had been true, it may have changed their votes, and it could have changed the outcome of the election, and Joe Biden wouldn't be president. And I believe that John Brennan, you mentioned Morrell also, Mike Morrell, who I've also met, former CIA director himself, and these guys have some splaining to do, and we just live in an accountability-free era in Washington, don't we?
Oh, exactly. That was, I mean, if any of this claim or charge against Trump is even remotely accurate in a fractional of it, they committed a huge felony by signing that letter, putting it out in public, knowing, and they had to know that, and if any of them even saw the information, they probably signed it blindly, but just the concept of it was extremely false, was obvious from the start. I and a number of people I associate with have, from the beginning condemned the thing as obvious attempt to affect the election. So you're right. They should be charged.
They should be charged. But we have, I like Meritless Garland. That's good, the Attorney General. And Michael Piercy and I were just talking because he's deceiving us under oath on Capitol Hill, even as we speak right now. We can thank our lucky stars that he's not on the Supreme Court. And honestly, Mitch McConnell deserves credit for Merrick Garland not being on the Supreme Court for life, for keeping him off, and Harry Reid for corrupting the process, I suppose, when he was the Democrat majority leader in the Senate. But what do you tell people at the dinner table, Isaac, when you're talking about this letter signed by the 51?
Well, what I talk about with any of them, including, young people and I mean, I've been to dinner with some of those senior level flag officers and those guys, and I'm not one myself, but I'm not misrepresenting anything. But I tell them that, hey, the faith that we had in the system for so many years needs to be reevaluated. You people need to, do some clear thinking about the things you're attaching yourselves to, and the course that we're on right now, this neo-Marxist level. Change in our whole social structure and social order is eventually going to come back to bite you. And if you think this thing through or at all attempt to look at what you have in your future or potential future, even young intelligence officers that I still see here and there, they will admit and look in your eyes and say, yes, I see what you're saying, but unless you really impress upon them that there's a very dangerous edge coming to things in the country here, which I also wanted to mention about Jamie Handkerchief Brain's attempts to affect the electoral vote that he's talked about. We have begun, a number of us, who have associations with other parts of other communities, have begun to talk to truckers and suppliers and people like that. And if he attempts to do that, we are going to definitely affect the delivery of food supplies to Washington, D.C. during January of 2025, if that's what they start.
Wow. There's like a counter-revolutionary movement, I think is what you're talking about. And I was talking to my friend Seton Motley about this, and this letter, signed by 51, has all the earmarks of election interference, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
They said that, and they were lying, that it had all the earmarks of Russian interference. It did not. And I've been saying all along that that their letter, the 51, has all the earmarks of, honestly, and it is of election interference, and there is no accountability again. They deceived the American people. The communist voting penitentiary face Brennan and that whole cabal are a danger to our republic. And I've got to say, I talked to more and more people, and I was just talking to Brent Bozell, who said that he's lost faith in our judicial system, and I've lost faith in our intelligence community, as the term, the IC, as it is commonly known. I've lost faith in our Justice Department, so-called, and in our FBI. I've lost faith in our judicial system as well. And it's because the left is here to deliberately destroy public faith in our institutions, because they're here to destroy. At least that is my assessment, Isaac.
Well, and I agree. I agree completely. I express the same kinds of things to close friends and people that I can, trust speaking in those terms. But the letter, has no more credibility than the Steele dossier. And if you saw all of the signs of it from the inside of the intelligence community, the IC, and if you saw them both in the context of what, who was promoting them and who was doing it, the infidelity of it all, the intentional attempt to destroy our election process, and the faith in our institutions was exactly what was happening.
Exactly what was happening. Isaac, God bless you. I'm saluting you, sir. I'm thankful that you called in. I appreciate your wanting to share that information and sharing that information.
Well, it was my pleasure, Chris. And incidentally, I also served in DIA, not with Mike DeLib, but in the same organization. And the stuff he tells you is worthless. I mean, do not ever
That is great.
anything he has to say.
That is great. CIA and DIA, God bless you. Isaac, thank you so very much. And be well. May God save us all. Thanks, Isaac. You know that the best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier uses Oxy technology that helps to quickly destroy many viruses, odors, mold spores, and more in the air in your home, in your office, with thousands of glowing 5-star reviews online. You know, it works like a champ. My best girl and I have 2 of them at home. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Whether you're talking litter boxes, trash cans, dirty diapers, left-wing protesters, no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules that help to seek out and destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and underneath furniture because nothing can hide from the thunderstorm. And best of all, no filters to buy over and over again, scheduling, mailing away, and replacing them. Come on, start enjoying your home with fresh air again and get several thunderstorms, because right now you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You get 3 units for under $200. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. What a world it is, what a country it is, what a town it is. We need saving. We need a lot of saving. And I know you're working on it. I'm working on it. We've got an election year this year. And we are at 888-630-9625. All right, let's go real quick to the phones. Let's go to Mark calling from Houston, Texas. Marcus, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, thank you for coming to Houston. Appreciate you being here. Every time I listen to all this debacle of what's going on in our government, I think of Harry Reid and that famous line he said, well, we won, didn't we, after he got caught lying. We're down to the executive is corrupt. The legislative branch is dysfunctional at best. And the only thing left is the Supreme Court. And we know they're supposed to be patient, but that patience is causing irreversible damage to this country. This almost has to speed up to right this ship. I don't see it righting. What I'm afraid to see is Juan Marchand going, but we won, didn't we?
Yeah, you know, you're right. And Harry Reid, when he lied about Mitt Romney not paying his taxes and so on, then we won, didn't we? June 8th at noon, Lafayette Park surround the White House. Join the 2-mile-long People's Red Line. They're calling it the People's Red Line, telling everyone to wear red. Now, red is not the color of Hamas. Is red the color of Hamas? No, that's not the color of Hamas. It's not the color of Islam, which is green. It's the color of communism. It's the color of communist China. It's the color of blood. It's the color of the Soviet Union. All out to D.C. on June 8th. That's the headline. It's the Answer Coalition. They're commies. And they write, a month ago, Biden said the invasion of Rafah was a red line. Now, his red line, because they're using the Joe Biden red line thing, just amazing stuff. These are commies. These are not Americans. These are pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas, and they've brainwashed probably millions of young Americans into signing up for their commie, anti-American, pro-death cult, anti-Semitic cause. Man. On June 8th, we will surround the White House with a 2-mile-long banner. A People's Red Line. That's the language of communism, the People's Revolution, the People's Republic of North Korea. Wearing red, which is the color of commies who murdered 100 million people in the 20th century. We will show the world we are the red line. So this is your left-wing mob coming back for more. And this is, make no mistake, this is the Democrat Party. This is the mainstream of today's Democratic Party, so-called. Isn't that amazing? The People's March, commies, Answer Coalition, been around for years. News media pretends they're just perfectly normal, as the news media is filthy, corrupt, ignorant, dishonest, intellectually lazy, intellectually dishonest, journalistically lazy, journalistically dishonest. Remarkable stuff. I'm telling you. Yeah. Also, we've got, I hope I can still get to the Hunter Biden trial where, they excluded Trump supporters from the jury. No Trump supporter allowed on the Hunter Biden jury, and no Trump supporters allowed on the Trump jury. Because you got, your Juan Merchan, left-wing Biden donor judge, and there will be no Trump supporters on the Trump jury, and there will be no Trump supporters on the Biden jury. That keeps it even Steven, right? That makes it even-handed. It's they do this in the name of fairness. The Trump jury in New York is all Trump-hating Biden supporters, and the jury for Hunter Biden in Delaware is all Trump-hating Biden supporters. That's leveling the playing field, you see. That's how that goes. Now, speaking of crooked Democrats, Anthony Fauci lied to us over and over again about all manner of things. And he was on Capitol Hill yesterday testifying. Jim Jordan, Congressman, now this is if the Republicans didn't control the House of Representatives, we would just be down the sewer pipe. We would be, and we're close as it is. We're circling the drain as a culture right now. Congressman Jim Jordan talking to Anthony Fauci, who was the voice and the face of the Wuhan Red Death out of Wuhan, China, which we all know came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology and not from the wet market. Although I don't think I'd shop at a food market that was identified as the wet market. But that was their way of blaming the Chinese working class for having filthy hygiene and creating a virus in a food court that killed 8 million people worldwide, right? That's their way of shirking respect and making sure that the Chinese Communist government doesn't take the fall, doesn't take the blame. And then later on we find out that Anthony Fauci using U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Gain-of-function makes a virus more communicable, more lethal. And so on, Congressman Jim Jordan, hey, you and the lab leak theory, didn't you tell us that the lab leak theory was a lot of hooey?
Do you agree that there was a push to downplay the lab leak theory?
Not on my part.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
I think most of the country would find that amazing. I still got 11 seconds.
But look at the facts. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
All right, I yield back.
He keeps an open mind. You got to keep in mind that he's keeping an open mind he's always keeping an open mind. Fauci denies seeking to suppress COVID-19 lab leak origin theory. That's pretty remarkable stuff because they did trample anybody that suggested I'm tired of calling it a theory. Anybody that suggested correctly that the origin of COVID-19 was the Wuhan Institute of Virology. People lost their jobs. People were canceled on social media and so on. And now it seems abundantly clear, and it was always starkly obvious, that it didn't come from a food market. You know, the bats where you find the original proteins that led to the virus. They're not found within 1,000 miles of the city of Wuhan, but no problem there. Congressman John Joyce with Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, one of the controversial regulations of the pandemic was the 6-foot distancing rule. This rule became an important policy consideration in subsequent regulations. However, you testified recently, and I'm quoting, this 6-foot rule sort of just appeared. Do you think that a rule that sort of just appeared is substantial justification for the regulations that we saw based on that 6-foot rule?
You know, 6-foot rule led to schools being closed down, air travel being restricted, mask mandates. We learned later that maybe an N95 mask might have some effect on containing the spread of the virus, but your surgical masks, no effect at all. It's like, you know, keeping mosquitoes out with a chain link fence. It never made any sense. And, you know, these are the top of the pops scientists in the United States of America in our government apparatus. Isn't that amazing? And the 6-foot distancing is like, hey, don't look at me. I didn't do it. The CDC did it.
When saying it just appeared, it came from the CDC.
Okay, you stated that earlier. What was your relationship with the CDC when you saw a regulation which was
Were
not
you dating?
based in the current science?
Well, when I say was not based in science, I meant a prospective clinical trial to determine whether 6 foot was better than 3, was better than 10.
But once we realized that the virus was not spread by droplets and was aerosolized, did you feel an indication to go back to the CDC and said, let's base this on science?
Yeah, no, well, base it on science. Why would we do that? We wouldn't want to base it on science, Congressman Joyce.
This 6-foot rule crippled businesses. It allowed students to stay at home and not learn.
Mandated.
Americans suffered. And that suffering continues because the fracture of trust in American scientists continues to this day. Did you not feel an obligation for something that just sort of appeared, not to go back to the CDC and say, let's base this on what we know?
It was a CDC decision, and it was their decision to make, and they made it.
Yeah, sure. It's the 6-foot rule was a lot of hooey. The surgical mask rule was a lot of hooey. The claim that the virus could not infect you if you got the vaccine was a lot of hooey. The claim that if you were vaccinated, you couldn't get the virus and you couldn't transmit the virus. Those were all a lot of hooey. The vaccine is completely harmless and no problem now. Congressman Brad Wenstrup.
Did the COVID vaccine stop transmission of the virus?
That is a complicated issue because in the beginning, the first iteration of the vaccines did have an effect, not 100%, not a high effect. They did prevent infection and subsequently, obviously, transmission.
What? Not a high effect. Not a high effect. Did have some effect. Nobody actually saw that happening. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene went after Fauci in a way that only she can.
NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes.
Uh-oh, Mr. Fauci, not Dr. Fauci. They all became very angry about that. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, Jamie Raskin, left-wing radical extremist, racist from Maryland, Democrat, of course. He was really upset.
Some of our colleagues in the United States House of Representatives seem to want to drag your name through the mud. They're treating you, Dr. Fauci, like a convicted felon. Actually, you probably wish they were treating you like a convicted felon. They treat convicted felons with love and admiration.
George
Some
Floyd?
of them blindly worship convicted felons.
You blindly worship convicted felons. I think that he's talking about Donald Trump. Am I right? Joe Biden is he's going to be a convicted felon if he lives long enough. That's a remarkable thing. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene was leaving the hearing and was ambushed by a fake reporter or two, getting in her face with microphones and cameras. They couldn't get microphones to President Trump the entire time he was on trial for 5 weeks in New York. And a single microphone got close to him outside the courthouse. They did have that one self-immolation by a Democrat, though. Marjorie Taylor Greene being doorstep and being asked, hey, Congressman Jamie Raskin, such as he is, accused you of worshiping a convicted felon. He must have been talking about Donald Trump. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, we had to bleep her a little bit.
We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump. Worshiping as a convicted felon. She is convicted. Well, yeah, so is George Floyd. And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the country over George Floyd, and Raskin is in there saying we worship him. Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump. And I'm really sick and tired of the bullshit annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats.
Oh, holy cow. What about that? That's pretty wild stuff. Got a little of this and a little of that. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's nonstop BS and annex. You want to know why? The Democrats don't have anything. They're responsible for the lockdowns, forced vaccinations, kids being forced to stay home, people committing suicide, and all the horrors that this country lived through during COVID. Fauci belongs in prison.
Let's put everybody in prison. Honestly, the Democrats have laid down new parameters, new rules, new standards. And let's FBI raid pre-dawn Anthony Fauci's house, get a CNN camera crew in tow. I think that's probably the way to go. Remarkable stuff. And there was the mention of the $710 million in royalties from drug makers, pharmaceutical companies, that they pretend to despise, but they'll take their money. A fact they tried to hide, the New York Post. And it is a remarkable story. New data from the National Institutes of Health revealed that the agency and its scientists collected $710 million in royalties during the pandemic from late 2021 until 2023. Payments made by private companies, pharmaceutical companies, to license medical innovations from government scientists. Turns out, you can get rich in government. Isn't that amazing? $710 million. Almost all the cash. $690 million went to the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. That's Anthony Fauci's organization, and it's 260 scientists. Isn't that fascinating? What a country. There's a lot of corruption. If we only had a news media that was looking to root out corruption and expose it in government, which is what our founders envisioned, but that's terribly broken right now. With Father's Day just around the corner, what do you get the dad who has everything? Well, that's easy. You give him Omaha steaks, because a world-class father deserves world-class steaks. The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to put a smile on Dad's face this summer with hand-selected gift packages, starting at just $89. Come on, that's one steak dinner out with Dad, but you get a lot more from Omaha Steaks. All you have to do is go to omahasteaks.com, use the promo code PLANT. That's me, Plante. I got an extra vowel on the end. Use PLANT at checkout for an additional discount when you shop the gourmet gift packages for Father's Day at Omaha Steaks. You pick from premium proteins like the juicy, beautiful pork chops, the air-chilled chicken, the beefy burgers, and, of course, the steaks. So go to omahasteaks.com and use the promo code PLANT. That's how you shop for unforgettable gifts that are guaranteed to make Dad's Day. It's Father's Day because, there's one thing that Omaha Steaks knows, and that is that dads want steaks. That's omahasteaks.com. The promo code is PLANT at checkout to save on exclusive packages starting at just $89. Now this story got my attention this morning. The headline from People magazine: 74-year-old woman pronounced dead found breathing in funeral home. It's a very unusual case, Lancaster County Sheriff Deputy Ben Houchin said. Now, here's Ainsley Earhart this morning on Fox and Friends reporting the story.
A 74-year-old woman declared dead at a Nebraska nursing home was found alive 2 hours later by funeral home employees. Police are now looking into the very unusual case.
Just happened yesterday, Monday, June 3rd. Pretty amazing. Lincoln, Nebraska, declared dead, nursing home sent to the morgue. The morgue, had her on the slab, and it's like, hey, suddenly she's breathing, and she's like, I feel fine. It's like Monty Python. Honestly, it's also like The Simpsons, because this happened on, Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson. This happened on The Simpsons years ago.
Burns was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. He was then transferred to a better hospital where doctors upgraded his condition to alive.
Now, we've played that soundbite before as a little joke because it's kind of funny. And then there is the Monty Python and the Holy Grail where they bring out your dead. And they brought out a dead guy who's saying, I feel fine. All right, but 74-year-old woman thought to be dead found breathing ahead of her funeral. Monday, June 3rd, Lancaster County Sheriff, Nebraska. The office held a press conference. Authorities said that Constance Glantz of Lincoln, Nebraska, was nearly buried alive. But then they say, hey, somebody noticed she's breathing.
I'm not dead.
Yeah, he says he's not dead.
Yes.
He feels fine. That is a heck of a story. Hey, Mom, it might be the beginning of, the rapture or something. I'm not sure. But that's a pretty wacky story. It's always important to check on these things.